My name is Brandon Hartung, and I'm a media missionary who travels the world using photography and video to tell the stories of impact those missionaries and ministries are having and inviting others to join in those efforts. Today's podcast is sponsored by Oasis Worship Center in Caruthersville, Missouri. Real people serving a real God. You can find Oasis Worship Center on Facebook and Instagram, or they'd love to meet you in person every Sunday morning in Caruthersville, Missouri. All right, we are in El Salvador. We just had an interview with Brother Kenton Moody in the Mission Media studio, and now I followed you back down here to El Salvador, and honored to be a part of your ministry and to see everything what you guys are doing again, and got my family with me, and kind of have a special little interview today. And do you want to tell people like where we're at and kind of what we're going to be doing?
Okay, we're at the Living Free program, and Living Free is a rehabilitation center for young men who have been involved in the gangs and life of delinquency and have come out of prison and are having a chance for a new life again. And they've made that decision. And so you were here several years ago when we were building this place and getting it going and just getting ready to start up. And now God's blessed us, and we see the difference that He's making in the lives and of many of the young men. And one of those young men, his name is Osvaldo. And he's been here almost 3 years. He's now a leader. He is actually going to Bible school, training. We have him working with us. And so we're so proud of him and everything that God's done in his life. And I want you to meet him.
Yeah, it's awesome. Even just the progress I've seen in 3 years. We came out and I flew the drone today to get some more updated video and stuff. And just all the things that are happening, like the add-ons and the buildings, and they're not just buildings, they're training.
Yeah, they're training.
They're opportunities.
They're also to help generate some funds, because we'd like for this place to be so supporting. And so, I mean, we have the bakery, we have the T-shirt stamping shop, and we have the chicken project, we have the carpentry shop, we have the tilapia, which you guys helped feed the tilapia today. Yeah. And so all of those things are to provide training, but also to provide a future for these young people. And they're thanks to donors who have said, hey, we want to be involved. We believe in your project, and just coming down and making a difference.
Yeah, it really doesn't happen without people being a part of it with you. One person can't do it all. So I just told Brother Kenton, I said, hey, can we sit down? We've seen these people, me and especially you, but even just me from being here a few times, I've seen guys come through this program and be able to go back to the we call it, the real world or whatever, back to regular lives and not go back to the gangs. So that's such a cool thing to see. So I just asked them, is there any of them that we can sit down with and just hear their story? And so that's what we wanted to do today, to introduce you to one. And I'm going to have Brother Kenton interview him so he can translate as well. And just hear the whole story, what it's like from his perspective. So I hope you enjoy this interview.
Osvaldo, ¿cuánto tiempo tiene aquí en Vida Libre?
Aproximadamente 3 años casi.
Going on 3 years here at the program. We started in February, but it'll be all 3 years here in a couple months. ¿Y de dónde viene?
Pues soy de aquí de Santana.
So he's from Santa Ana. ¿Y cuántos años tiene?
24.
24 years old. ¿Cuánto tiempo pasó en la cárcel?
Aproximadamente 5 años.
I was in jail for 5 years. Entonces, ¿usted entró cuántos años tenía cuando entró?
16 años.
So I was put in jail when I was 16 years old, a youth prison. ¿Y cuál era la condena?
10 años de condena.
Y no sé si quiere decir...
Claro. Delito.
Uh-huh.
Pues me acusaban de extorsión.
So I was given a 10-year jail sentence, and they accused me of extortion, which is very common here amongst the young men that are involved in this issue here in El Salvador, of delinquency. ¿Y cómo has sentido aquí en Vida Libre?
Pues gracias a Dios mucho mejor. Es un gran cambio, y en este lugar es muy diferente que estar en una prisión.
I felt so much change here, and I felt so good here in living free, and just the opportunity to transform. Y usted creció en un ambiente de donde había mucha delincuencia. ¿Cómo se involucró con los otros jóvenes con delincuencia?
Sí,
¿Cómo
pues
comenzó eso? How did this really start?
desde muy chiquito que
Cuando dice chiquitito, ¿de cuántos años?
quizás ya de 5 años ya pasaba en la calle.
When I was 5 years old, I started in the streets, so I was really young. And I just doing a little pause here. This just shows you the influence that these young men have had in this country, in the gangs, to attract young men or boys, basically little children, into it and start training them. ¿Y qué hizo cuando tenía 5, 6, 7 años? ¿Qué estaba haciendo?
Bueno, en esa edad, como mis padres trabajaban, los dejaban en casa y luego, pues, yo más que todo pasaba en la calle y así fue pasando el tiempo hasta que llegué a mis 12 años que entré a la estructura.
So from 5 to 12 years old, my parents were working, and so they weren't home, and I would just be out in the street. And so that led me to run with them until I got to about 12 years old, and that's when I really joined the structure and became a member. ¿Y cómo sentía? No sé si usted creció, había iglesia, usted creció en la iglesia, o sus padres fueron a la iglesia, o de verdad no.
Sí, un tiempo mi mamá fue cristiana, los llevaba a la iglesia, pero en ese entonces nosotros no teníamos mayor interés.
So my mom was a Christian and took us to church, but I lost interest really young, and this tal vez no era tan atractivo como la calle, ¿verdad?
Sí, correcto.
It wasn't nearly as attractive as the street was. Well, y a los 12 años, ¿usted seguía estudiando en la escuela también? O
No, yo dejé de estudiar a los 10 años casi.
I quit school at about 10 years old. And so just passed all my time in the streets. Entonces estaba en la calle todo el tiempo.
Sí, como a mí casi no me gustaba estudiar, entonces mi mamá me dio a elegir si el trabajo o la escuela, entonces por preferir la calle quizás el trabajo.
And so my mom told me if I'm not going to study, I had to work, but I actually preferred the street more than I did to working. So, y cuando usted comenzó a ser parte de la estructura, ¿qué tenía que hacer? ¿Cómo sentía? ¿O cómo
Quizás
era paso por paso, más profundo? ¿Cómo era? Porque
sí,
hay mucha
todo
gente
paso.
que no sabe, ¿me explico?
Fue paso por paso.
Like step by step that was led into the gang and into the structure.
Sí, correcto. Primero con los jóvenes en la esquina, luego pues algunas reuniones o luego llegar hasta cometer algún acto delictivo.
So at first it was just hanging out with the guys on the street corner, and then it was going to their meetings, and then it was them involving me in doing different things that were not right.
Is there something that drew him to that?
¿Y cuál es la atracción de estos jóvenes, de este grupo?
Pues
Para usted personalmente.
quizás la adrenalina, quizás pensábamos uno en ser libre, pero era mentira.
It's like the feeling to be free and maybe the adrenaline of doing stuff, but being free, but it really wasn't free. Pero es que faltaba amor en casa o atención de sus padres. Usted puede poner el dedo en algo que tal vez se le llevó o nada más quería estar con sus compañeros y amigos y de vecinos y eso.
Creo que en mi parte personalmente fue más que todo personal porque mis padres siempre lucharon para que a mí no me pudiera faltar nada, pero aún así siempre elegí la calle.
For me personally, it wasn't that I lacked anything, that I lacked attention from my parents or love or because we were really poor, because my parents tried to take care of me and do everything. It was just a personal interest that I had, that I wanted to be hanging out with the guys. Y usted sentía como eso iba a ser eso el resto de la vida, porque sabemos que a veces hay que hacer un pacto con ellos, ¿verdad?
Sí, correcto. Bueno, eso era prácticamente de toda la vida, prácticamente. Siempre tenía un dilema en lo que era 3 puntos, que era matar, vivir o cementerio. No había salida en sí, simplemente solo el camino de Dios. Era algo que siempre respetaba.
Really, to be part of this group is a lifetime commitment, and so you're with them, or you die, or you're in jail, or you can become a Christian, and that's something that they have respected if somebody wanted a life change, but the commitment's for life. Pero usted decidió cuando conoció al hermano Allan, y cuando usted vino a Vida Libre, usted decidió que no iba a seguir en eso, ¿verdad?
Y a la verdad fue la obra del Señor, porque en sí carnalmente pues quizás no quería nada con Dios, y fue Dios quien hizo la obra prácticamente y me trajo a su camino.
So, I really didn't want to have anything to do with God, but it was just God's hour, and He just worked in me, and I just felt drawn to make that change. Con su experiencia conociendo a otros jóvenes de este mismo grupo, compañeros que tal vez todavía están presos, ¿verdad? Y ¿usted cree que Dios es la única manera de cambiar y de salir de ese tipo de vida?
Sí, completamente. Creo que Dios es la única salida, y solamente en Él hay libertad. Libertad.
And I asked Osvaldo if, just knowing his friends and maybe some that are still in prison, those that have been around him, if God's really the only way to change and get out of that lifestyle. And he says completely, that's the only transformation that's really going to make a difference. Y ¿cómo se siente dentro? ¿Usted de verdad se siente libre? ¿Usted se siente religioso? ¿Usted se siente... ¿Cómo se siente usted?
Pues gracias a Dios ya ahora en este lugar, pues sí, prácticamente me siento libre.
I feel free here. And maybe that's a good reason. It's called living free. And living free from the past, living free from what this group says that you have to do, that's for life, and living free from condemnation. Entonces, usted vive libre.
Sí.
Y usted tiene un hijo también, ¿verdad?
Sí, tiene 6 años.
He has a son, he's 6 years old. ¿Cómo se llama?
Jeremy.
Jeremy. Uh-huh. His name is Jeremy. Usted trata de ser parte de la vida de él en lo que puede, ¿verdad?
Sí. Cuando vine a este lugar prácticamente se me dio la oportunidad de estar un poco más cerca de él, gracias a Dios.
So coming to Living Free, I had the opportunity to reconnect with my son. And so he's been able to buy him gifts and that type of thing. So le compró algo para la Navidad.
Sí, eres excelente.
So he bought him, something for Christmas this year and everything. Y si usted iba a hablar con un joven, si hay un joven aquí que no ha hecho decisión de cambiar eso, ¿cuáles son sus palabras de sugerencia?
Pues quizás nada más palabras de consejo y ánimo, de que pueda siempre continuar sus estudios y continuar con sus sueños, y de que pues solamente confiando en Dios podemos lo que es salir adelante y sobre todo cumplir nuestras metas.
So if I were sharing with a young man here that hadn't made the change yet, I would tell him, follow your dreams, follow your goals, but you need to do it with God, because God's the only way that you can actually accomplish all of that. Y si usted ¿podría decir algo? Porque usted ha visto donantes, visitas de los Estados Unidos que han llegado aquí para ver el programa y ellos siempre están asombrados, ellos dan abrazos, dan la mano. ¿Qué debe decir a la gente que tal vez no conoce el lugar todavía? Que vale la pena vida libre, vale la pena lo que estamos haciendo con los jóvenes.
Sí, la verdad, quizás mis palabras para ellos es de que, bueno, este lugar sí vale la pena y la verdad es una gran bendición. Bueno, ha sido para mí una gran bendición y sigue siendo para mí y creo que igualmente puede ser para muchos jóvenes más este lugar y que igualmente pues hay mucha gente de que cree que no hay solución y no se puede, pero sí se puede. Dios me ha rescatado a mí de lo más bajo y ahora pues me ha dado una libertad, sobre todo espiritual, y estoy agradecido con todo eso.
If I could say anything to people who haven't seen the program or donors or people that are interested in what's going on here, I would just tell them it's worth it because it's changed me and it's taken me from the very low that I could be in life and rescued me and give me another opportunity. And I believe it could do it for others. There's many that feel like that there's no hope for young men like ourselves, but that's not true. God can change anybody.
When he first went to jail, did he expect to just do his time and go back in the streets, or what was his thought process when he went to jail?
Cuando usted fue a la cárcel, usted pensaba que iba a hacer sus 10 años y luego regresar a la estructura. ¿Cuál es su plan?
Pues la verdad ese eran mis planes, pero los planes de Dios eran completamente diferentes.
Those were my plans, but God had other plans.
And then did he meet you in jail, or how did he come here?
He came through, met Allan first, because Allan was there. Pero nosotros sí nos conocemos ahí en El Espino también, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Sí. Pero era parte del programa de los 12 Pasos.
Sí, pasé todo el programa.
He went through the 12 Steps Towards Freedom program that we have in the youth prison and met Allan. Allan was directing that and visiting, and I met him as well. And we originally were going to have more, but we ended up with 5 because of the pandemic. They let a lot of people free, but we're so glad that Osvaldo came. So.
Then where does he see his future going now? Nowadays, how does it tonight?
¿Y qué ve para el futuro?
Pues, primeramente Dios, con la ayuda de Él, pues, sobre todo seguir en el camino de Dios y que un trabajo y una familia.
With the help of God, I want to continue on God's path, but I also look forward to having a job and a family. Totalmente diferente que antes. Totally different than before. So, I've known Osvaldo more than 3 years, but more here, and he's always been a very calm guy and somebody who's very respectful. And most of the young men that we have here in the Living Free program, if you were to meet them at our church or on the street, you would never suspect that they've been part of a structure of crime or anything like that, because God's done so many things in their lives, and God can transform anybody. And I always said, if God can transform me, He can transform them. If God can transform them, He can transform me as well. Or you. So, here at Living Free, I mean, it takes a team. And I'm the pastor of the church. We have a school. We have the Center of Hope. We have a clinic. We build houses. We have teams that come down to visit. But I'm so thankful that we have a team here at Living Free. We have Allan Espinoza, who's our director. We have Gerardo, who's a full-time psychologist. We have an agronomist that works here. One of our associate pastors is like the pastor here at the campus. And then Osvaldo was already becoming one of the leaders. And as I mentioned, he's studying in Bible school, and so training to be a leader. That's what you want to do, is raise up leadership.
Yeah.
And so I have chosen not to know all the background behind the young men, because sometimes then you can look at them through a different lens. Allan knows all the good, the bad, the ugly, and deals with their discipline issues, and we step in if it becomes serious. But it's like day-to-day, constant loving. Dr. Dobson said from Focus on the Family, it was like strong love. And that's what you have to have here.
And it just takes, I don't think people at home kind of like realize how many people it actually takes. It's like to meet all the different needs and be able to help someone like we just interviewed. But it's so cool to hear him say, what I thought was going to happen with my life. And then now, because this is here and you guys are here, and obviously introducing them to Jesus, and that there is a hope for a better life and a more normal life, that you give them that opportunity.
Yeah. And I think I mentioned to you, I don't back away, nor am I ashamed to say that God's the answer.
Yeah.
And I've been here 14 years in El Salvador, and I've seen the delinquents, I've seen the gang members, I've seen people killed, I've talked with them, I've had them in our church and that type of thing. And it's a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
And so God's the only one that can change this. And that's why we have to have a godly team as well. I mean, Allan's one of the associate pastors in our church. We have another associate pastor in our church that's living here with his wife, and they help out with the teaching. And so it takes that strong spiritual discipline as well as love, as well as job training, as well as education. All of that put together. It's just like you're raising children.
Yeah. And you really are. You've kind of become a father figure to some of these guys too that don't have that anymore or never had it in their life.
And, parents, they love kids. They love their children in spite of.
Mm.
And so you love them as they are, you see them as they can be.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to our next point. We also want to interview the director, Brother Allan. And so I'm going to let you do that again so I can film and you guys just talk and share what his perspective is of working here and being with these guys and what he's seen in all of this.
Okay, great. Allan, you come from a family, single mother family. And so many of the young men that we see in the program also come from like broken homes or single mother homes without a dad. You're able to identify with them, right?
Yes. So when I know the history about the young years, I feel sometimes some saved, that no parents and no fathers, and his life is same for me, and it's important. The father and our lives is really important, and I feel identified with that part.
Usted creció aquí en Santa Ana. No sé si usted pensaba de una vez que iba a trabajar con ese tipo de personas o nunca, ¿verdad? You grew up in Santa Ana. Did you ever think you would be working with this type of people?
Jamás. Never, I think, worked with these people. Para mí es solo ser obediente a lo que sé que Dios me dijo un día, de ir y trabajar en la cárcel con ellos, nada más.
So I never thought I would be working with this group of people, but I just had to be obedient because God spoke to me one day and told me I need to go to the prison and visit. And what was your first experience when you went to the youth prison? How did you feel? Did you feel scared? Did you feel like you didn't know how to talk to them? What was your initial feeling the first time you went to the youth prison?
Sentí, en mi interior sentí algo que jamás había experimentado, como que mi respiración era muy diferente. No sentía que había algo que no podía ver la primera vez.
I felt something I never felt before. I couldn't catch my breath, and I never felt anything like that in my inner person.
Sí sentí un poco de miedo, pero también sentía como que tenía que seguir, tenía que hablarles y conocerles, y no sabía cómo hacerlo, pero sentía que algo me obligaba a seguir.
I felt a little fear, but I also felt like being pushed to get to know them and to talk to them, and I didn't really know how to do it, but I had to go forward.
Ahora sé que el Espíritu Santo era el que estuvo ahí y sigue empujándome a seguir trabajando con ellos, a seguir hablándoles y conociéndoles. Y también entiendo ahora que el mundo espiritual, demonios y toda esa influencia era lo que sigue en la cárcel.
And I know it's the Holy Spirit that really was pushing me to do that and leading me that direction to get to know them and to talk to them and make that move. At the same time, I now realize that it was demons and it was Satan trying to keep me from doing that and trying to block that and to bring fear. Al principio, I'm going to say it in English, because you understand me when I'm speaking in English. We never really thought that we were going to start a program. It was just go to visit the jail and help in the jail. But we saw a bigger need. Just like Osvaldo said that in 10 years, he was going to get out and go right back to the gang. So we saw that. So that was part of the decision. We have to do something extra, right?
Sí. Cuando estábamos en la cárcel y luego de muchas visitas y muchas pláticas, algunos jóvenes decían, mira, yo sí quiero salir, yo quiero cambiar mi vida, pero necesito ayuda afuera.
After many visits there in the prison and talking to the young man, there were a number of them that said, really, I need help when I get out. I'm going to go back to the same community, or to the same situation. What's going to happen to me?
Y al principio yo jamás pensé en mi cabeza, bueno, hace algo o hablar con el pastor para que hagamos algo. Yo primero que pensé fue buscar a alguien o otra iglesia que tal vez ya tuviera un programa y hiciera algo y les ayudara.
I never thought of saying, well, the pastor, well, let's do something, let's start a program. I always thought, well, maybe we'll look for other churches or other ministry that are already doing this and to reach out to them. Pero nos dimos cuenta que no había nadie haciendo eso, ¿verdad?
Sí. Y cuando buscas otra iglesia o fundación o organización y nadie, yo pensé, bueno, no podemos hacer nada, pero estaba ese empuje del Espíritu Santo haciéndonos ver de que sí se podía hacer algo, pero teníamos que nosotros hacer algo, y eso no fue fácil.
So we looked for other organizations and foundations or ministries that were doing that would reach out and help them and be like a halfway house, and we didn't find anything. And so, that's when there's like the Holy Spirit again pushing us. That was his pushing us to do that, but that wasn't our original idea or original intent when we started going into the prisons. Nosotros vimos algunos jóvenes de nuestra área, de nuestra iglesia, ¿verdad? We saw young men from our own church and our own area that were in prison. And that's sort of what initially led you to want to go to prison. Is that true?
Yeah.
So there were young men that were involved that helped us build houses or that we had met in the street.
Y vimos, la primera vez que entramos, vimos que estaban ahí y no tenían mucho tiempo, quizás tenían 2 semanas de estar ahí. Pero cuando seguimos visitando, ellos al principio no estaban como muy adentro de la pandilla, pero conforme pasó más tiempo, ellos comenzaron a tatuarse e empezaron a involucrarse más adentro de la cárcel y eso fue algo que también nos preocupó de ver esa situación.
At first, they weren't really involved, but then they began to almost to be drawn into the gang while they were in prison and getting to tattooing themselves, that type of thing.
Sí, mm, algo que vi en la prisión es que no había más influencia de iglesias y que no había nadie haciendo algo por ellos. Entonces, eso era algo que también el Espíritu Santo nos llevaba a tener esa influencia ahí. Un día yo estaba entrando a la cárcel, ya está adentro y yo iba hacia un sector y yo vi a una persona, un joven, que su rostro estaba muy enojado y él me dijo, ¿cuándo van a venir los verdaderos cristianos aquí? Y luego escupió por donde yo estaba y yo sentí que era un demonio que estaba hablando en ese momento.
One time when I was in prison, one of the young men I saw had a very angry expression on his face, and he said, "And when are the real Christians, the true Christians, going to come here and visit us in prison?" And he spit at my feet, and so I just felt like it was a demon in him that was speaking and that was challenging us. And the truth is, Allan, that we saw in the prison that they had church services, but that was about it. And one of the prison directors told us at that time, we need more than church services because church services don't transform. We need somebody that's going to do more.
Sí, porque lo que todos ven es nada más un culto, un momento, y a veces eso es muy emotivo, pero no ven un programa, algo más ordenado, constante, un discipulado.
And we saw, I mean, they have a church service and it's like an emotional moment, but that's it. And it really didn't go beyond that. And they needed somebody that would disciple and would be there. Am I right in saying that also they needed to see somebody constant that was there week in, week out, and somebody that loved them? That's what I felt, that they needed somebody that was actually interested in it.
Sí, lo que hemos tratado de hacer en el trabajo en la cárcel es interesarnos por cada uno, conocerles, hablar, saber cuál es su historia y conociendo su historia, pues, y a la persona le mostramos que de verdad nos interesa y luego, pues, tratamos que esa persona venga al programa Vida Libre.
So what we tried to do is to be there, to get to know them, know their name, know their history, know where they come from, and through that relationship then try to make a difference in their lives and gain their confidence. Y puedo decir que ahí en la cárcel, usted y los demás, por usted, hemos ganado la confianza de la iglesia y la fundación, ¿verdad?
Sí.
So through just going and being there, we've been able to gain their confidence, and that confidence brings them here as well. I don't know if there's one story of one person that we either won or we lost or something, one story that really moves you, one person that you've met or that's been here or been there.
Bueno, actualmente Kevin, yo yo recuerdo la primera semana aquí,
I remember Kevin's first week here.
la primera clase de desafío juvenil.
And the first class of the Teen Challenge Discipleship course.
Él estaba pero muy molesto, enojado, porque él no podía leer ni podía escribir bien.
And he was very upset and very angry because he could not read or write very well.
Y él no quería estar más en clase.
And he didn't want to be in the class.
Y fue un momento de mucho enojo, pero le tratamos día a día de animarle que siguiera, que continuara.
And he was very angry and every day, and we just had to encourage him day in and day out to keep going. He could do it.
Y poco a poco fue cambiando, poco a poco él fue aceptando estar en la clase, poniendo de su parte para poder aprender y mejorar.
And little by little, he kept going and doing his part to try to make it.
Y pudo finalizar su primer año y luego continuó con su segundo año. Y él de venir acá y no poder leer casi nada, sabía un poco lo que él pudo leer y escribir.
He finished his first year and then began his second year, and he came here really without being able to read or write. And so it was very hard for him.
Hace 2 semanas él finalizó sus estudios, su bachillerato, y él ahora lee perfectamente, él escribe perfectamente. Y para mí me siento muy, muy feliz por cómo él, poco a poco, día a día, nosotros lo empujamos, lo animamos, y ahora él pues ya es un bachiller.
And just a couple of weeks ago, he graduated with his high school degree. He can read and write perfectly. And it just took day in and day out, week by week, helping him. And we have teachers here that come up from our Hosanna school that we pay to provide for continuing education for them. And that help from those teachers and him studying and putting his personal effort in it made it possible to what it is today and to be a high school graduate.
Y su historia es un poco, bueno, es muy, muy difícil, muy dura, porque son 3 hermanos y su mamá los abandonó. Y su mamá es, bueno, alguien que, no sé cómo explicar eso, de esas señoras de manto que son muy cristianas, muy religiosas, ¿verdad? Pero siempre la mamá estaba en la iglesia y los dejaba a ellos en la casa. Y un día la mamá pues los abandonó y se quedaron solo con el papá.
He had 3 brothers, and his mom was a very religious person and was always in the church and doing that, but ignored her children and ended up leaving the dad and the 3 children, him and his 3 brothers, and abandoned them. So he had a very difficult situation. So, and maybe a bad attitude towards the church because of that as well. It could be.
Y él un día habló conmigo y me contó que el papá estaba muy deprimido y un día les dijo a ellos que se tomaran algo que parecía un refresco, pero él vio que era veneno y quería que los 3 tomaran ese veneno. Y luego el señor trató de suicidarse, puso un lazo y los 3 niños estaban viendo eso y él tapó a su hermanito para que no lo viera, pero el lazo no se rompió y el señor no se pudo suicidar.
His dad at one point was so depressed that he told his kids, sorry, I said there were 3 brothers, but there are 3 in total. So he told them to drink this drink that he had prepared for him. But Kevin saw that it was made out of poison, and so they didn't drink it because he's going to kill his kids. And a suicide pact. And then his dad actually, in front of the kids, put a rope around his neck and was going to hang himself. And Kevin covered his brother's eyes to protect them and keep them from seeing that. And when his dad stepped off the chair or the rope broke, and so he didn't die.
Y luego de eso, él decidió buscar la calle para ayudar a sus hermanos. Y
So from there, that's what led him to go to the streets and look for help for his brothers so he could provide for them.
Y así fue como comenzó su vida en la pandilla. Pero después que él me contó toda esa historia, él me dijo que el estar aquí había cambiado y había dado algo que él sentía que había perdido, que era el amor de familia. Y por eso él había ya cambiado su pensamiento.
And Kevin being here, he changed totally. It's obvious the change if you'd seen from the first day to now, the smile. And he said he found something or rediscovered something that he had lost as a child, and that was love of a family. Bueno, what do you see for the future, Allan? Does El Salvador needs us, really, this program?
Sí. La parábola de la oveja perdida nos enseña a ir por uno. No, quizás al principio yo quería ir por todos o ir por toda la cárcel, cientos o miles de jóvenes, ese era mi deseo. Pero ahora, después de 3 años, a veces uno se siente como, quiero hacer más, pero no se puede. Pero la parábola de la oveja perdida nos enseña a ir por uno. Eso fue lo que hizo Jesús, dejar 99, dejar muchos por ir por uno a la vez, y eso es lo que queremos seguir haciendo, ir y buscar esa oveja perdida.
So the parable of the lost sheep tells us to go out for one, look for that one. And maybe my original desire and intention was to get hundreds and thousands and save the whole jail and everything, but I realize it's important, the one person, and to go after them and help them change and transform. And so that's what we're here for this young man. That's pretty good. And I think it's really important. The jails have changed. The country has changed. There's many positive things happening here in El Salvador, and we're so grateful for that. After 20 plus years of corruption and of violence, and El Salvador being one of the number one violent countries in the world, we're so glad that there is change. At the same time, the country needs programs like Living Free to provide a step from the prison back into society again. And that's where we're really important, because God's pushed us and taught us how to love people and look beyond where they've come from, look beyond their gang tattoo, look beyond that and see them as a young man or a young person that can be rescued and changed and made into a productive part of society. And don't know if you want to say anything else.
Después de lo que el país está atravesando, hay muchos niños y jóvenes que está creciendo mucha ira por ver a sus familias en la cárcel. Nosotros queremos ayudar a estos niños o jóvenes para que el círculo no continúe y su ira, su enojo por todo lo que está pasando, pues sea transformado con el amor de Dios que Dios tiene para ellos. Y eso es lo que el programa quiere seguir haciendo para que finalice ese círculo.
There's a lot of young children and young men or young women that are that are angry because their family members are in prison. And so we want to continue to keep working with them and work through that can get rid of their anger and that they won't repeat the cycle. That's what we want to break this cycle and change our country for good.
Thanks again for joining us on the Mission Field Media Podcast. We so appreciate you taking the time to watch and listen to what God is doing all around the world through all these missionaries and ministries. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and find us on the social media apps and follow us there as well. Tell all your friends about it. We couldn't do any of this without the listeners like yourself and our sponsors. Thank you so much, and we look forward to having you join us again on the Mission Field Media Podcast.